Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bird Notice. Billy here. Leading off, Colton Cowser breaks his thumb. Charlie Morton is ineffective, and Gunnar Henderson is activated from the injured list. But Ryan, what episode number is this?
This is episode 72, which was won for 33 games last season by Eloy Jimenez. He hit .232 with a .586 OPS in 100 plate appearances, hitting one homer with 23 strikeouts and 4 walks. Jimenez originally signed with the Cubs as an amateur free agent, but was traded to the South Side in 2017 in a deal for Jose Quintana. Orioles legend Dylan Cease was also part of the return for the White Sox. Jimenez had a good debut season with the White Sox in 2019, finishing fourth in Rookie of the Year voting with 31 homers, 79 RBIs, and an .828 OPS in 122 games. Since the shortened 2020 season, Jimenez has played over 98 games just once, but he did get paid. He signed a 6-year, $43 million deal before he debuted in 2019, which is a good example of the team risk in signing a prospect to an extension. Another example that comes to mind is Philly signing Scott Kingery to a 6-year, $24 million deal before he debuted. That isn't to say I think it's a bad idea for a team to do that, but perhaps these two shed some light on why teams don't extend prospects as often as maybe the fans want them to.
Yeah, if you're building a case for why the White Sox are in the position they're in, there's some exhibits on Eloy Jimenez presented by the prosecution.
Right.
That he was a fun acquisition at the trade deadline until he wasn't. It was very low risk. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they traded some minor league pitcher for him. I don't remember the name even, but who knows? In 5 years, he could be good, but...
Yeah, so we're going to do things a little differently to get started. We're going to jump right into the stolen mailbag. It starts, Mark in Panama says, I'm curious. I'm a longtime baseball fan, going back to Mark Belanger, Brooks, Jim Palmer, and others. And it seems I've been hearing for years that studies show it's faster to get to first base by running through the base and not diving. Yet, how often do we see a current player like Colton Cowser dive? As a reporter, can you mention to him it's faster to run through first base and there's a much lesser chance of injury when you run through it?
Wow. Mark in Panama is very prescient. That was, yeah. Who did he address that question to? Because obviously they're not going to listen to reporters, but like he definitely has a point.
Yes, I stole this from BaltimoreBaseball.com.
Okay.
And part of Rich Drubroff's answer was like, I'm not really in a position to give players advice on how to play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is a, it's one of those things. It's like everybody knows it, but some people still do the opposite, right?
Yeah, and over the course of 5 months and 5 games, Cowser has now broken his hand twice.
Yeah, the last 5 games he played, he broke his hand swinging at a strike 3 and missing and striking out, and then dove into first base and broke his thumb. Like, what a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you want to say he suffered 2 hand injuries, but suffered the wrong word because these were self-inflicted.
Yeah, shot himself in the thumb. Yeah, and after the last time, I wrote down Ben McDonald's quote. I went back and like transcribed it. After that, while they were watching the replay in that game, he said, I hate and I don't understand why you dive at first base. It's not faster. And a lot of times you can get hurt. And that was before they even knew that he broke his thumb. So, ugh.
Yeah, Ben McDonald is a great announcer. I was kind of going off in my head about him last night. He's not afraid to call out shit when he sees it.
Yeah, I like Ben a lot. Like, Jim Palmer is obviously a genius and has excellent recall, but as far as like insights into the current game of what you're watching, I think Ben's better at that.
Yeah, top-notch booth. That's so enjoyable. I watch the Nationals a little bit now, like when I'm falling asleep, because on my Fubo, I just set them to record those games too. I don't have MLB TV yet. I'm waiting for them to send me a discount code. And the Nationals booth sucks shit. It's so bad.
Have they changed it at all? I feel like they used to have FP Santangelo, right? And that dude was terrible.
He's long gone. I think he got me too.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you their names. They're just like faceless, personality-less announcers.
Right. Yes. I just remember Santangelo when I lived in DC. Occasionally, I turned the game on, and he just sounded like such a meathead. Programming note: we're recording this in the morning, not at night when our children are usually asleep.
Yeah, the edit might clean it up, might not. We'll find out. The team is saying 6 to 8 weeks. That probably means 8 to 10. So I think we can be happy if he's back before Memorial Day.
Yeah, and we were also just talking the last time we recorded about how in the opening Toronto series he caught that fly ball in left field, and Vlad Jr. just baited him into making a lazy throw to second, and he just took off and took an extra base. Like, it's that the baseball IQ for Cowser is just not there right now.
No, it's not. You have to wonder if it'll ever get there, really. He just seems so fun-loving. I don't think he's really worried about being like a cerebral baseball player.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if you can teach intelligence, It's like you have it or you don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but at some point you need to develop it, and at this point, you think even if you're a young prospect, you've played a zillion like high school and travel ball and college games, like you would have figured that out by now, I think.
Yeah. So it's curious to see if Brandon Hyde gives Heston Kjerstad the runway that he's earned, and I want to see for sure. Fangraphs had a really good article this week on Heston Kjerstad's, um, extended runway. I suggest to readers this week. It was really good.
What were their conclusions, and what did you think about it?
It was basically everything I've thought going into this season. I should pull up some of the lines. Just that even though he's 26 and he hasn't had ample opportunities yet, that's not really his fault. He was drafted in 2020. They didn't get to start playing because of COVID then. Then he had the myocarditis. It was like 2 full years before he started playing pro ball again. And then, he worked his way up through the minors. He got injured in spring training. He got hit in the head. So he's not your usual prospect who like blew opportunity. He's not Brett Beatty with the Mets. He just hasn't had a chance.
Yeah. I think one good thing about the injuries he's had is that they're not all related. It's not like he's hurt his hamstring 4 times or something. So I think that's a good thing. It's not a chronic issue that we know of.
He's not continually slamming his hands into car doors.
Yeah, not Cowsering himself.
So it's curious to see if Cowser's power will come back when he returns. He got to avoid missing time after the first hand injury because it led right into the offseason. This time he'll be coming back smack in the middle of the dog days. And, you'll be hoping he can provide a jolt and not become a liability. Like, worst case scenario is O'Neill, Mullins, and Kjerstad are all cruising, and now you got to fit Cowser back in here, and he can't get it going because his hand is a pancake.
I just made pancakes this morning. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And, with his defensive value, like the thumb on his throwing, I don't remember what hand he catches with. It doesn't really matter. But I think he can still play good defense, and maybe he'll just be like a defensive replacement pinch runner type for the first couple weeks when he makes his return to try to ease him into it.
Dylan Carlson was called up to take Cowser's spot on the roster. He only got 4 at-bats before they needed to make a spot for Gunnar Henderson's return. But Carlson with the Tide so far this season has been a revelation. 7 for 19. That's .539 if you're scoring at home. And he has a 1.607 OPS.
Wouldn't 7 for 19's got to be less than .539.
I don't know. Did I look at the wrong number?
Maybe 19 plate appearances, because half of 19 would be 9.5. So he would have to have like 10 hits to be .539.
But he also had a very good spring training, and they got him off the scrap heap.
Yeah, he's had talent. He was a pretty highly rated prospect, right, for the Cardinals a few years ago.
The Cardinals don't miss too often either, so maybe it just took him longer to... He's the same age as Kjerstad,
Right. They also have it reminds me of that Jordan Walker that the Cardinals have, who was like super hyped a couple years ago, and he's done nothing in the pros so far.
He's 7 for 13, 19 plate appearances.
All right. That makes more sense.
And then we got to pour one out for Nick Gordon. The Orioles traded him to Kansas City yesterday, which means nothing to most Orioles fan, but it sucks for me personally because he was going to be a fun and exciting AAA player for the Norfolk Tides this year. I only got to see him play in person last Sunday, and he had 2 hits. One of those was for a double, and he scored 2 runs.
Yeah, that seems like about his ceiling right now is a good AAA player. I wonder what the Royals are thinking about that, if that's what their goal is for him, or if they see him making a spot in the lineup.
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't even think of the Royals side of it.
Because they have some fast guys. Like, that's not really why he's there.
It's kind of odd to trade a guy a week into you signing him.
Maybe he went to the team, or his agent was like, hey, like, things are not shaking out, like, between Holiday and Westberg and Henderson and Urias. Like, I'm not going to play in the majors, so can you send me somewhere else?
That's a good point. That's probably what happened. That's all I got on the Cowser stuff for now. You just want to get any of these recaps? You got anything else before we move forward?
Nothing aside from kind of what I mentioned with Eloy Jimenez and the extensions that we're seeing. It seems like they're coming left and right, or maybe I'm just more aware of them now because I so desperately want the O's to do something. But it seems like there's been a bunch of dudes who've been getting extended lately, and it just makes me feel lonely and left out.
Yeah, I have some extensions things tied into the Red Sox series. Yeah, even when I saw Trey McBride, the Arizona Cardinals had to get an extension, I was like, this is getting ridiculous.
Just crossing over sports.
Just laughing in our face every time
he was actually
you see...
extended by the Diamondbacks, not the Cardinals.
No, I'm
kidding.
I got it. Yeah. They're just giving him away. They did extend Ketel Marte, though. The Diamondbacks did.
They did, and then he hurt himself, like, instantly. So.
Oh, he did? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he left with a hammy the other day, so.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I've wondered in the past if we should do game recaps the way we do, or talk more about, like, spin rates, but I know nothing about spin rates and shit like that.
No.
Like, I just know higher spin rate, good.
Yeah, that's what they say, huh? I couldn't even tell you the physics behind why. God, I took physics in high school and I friggin' hated it, so.
I did the same math from, like, that I was doing in 4th grade that I was doing as a senior in high school, so I'm not the person to go to for high IQ baseball analytics.
So this is a story that no one will care about, but it kind of cracks me up still to this day, is that in high school, I had, like, fulfilled the science requirement for New York State where I was in school, and I didn't have to take physics my senior year, but I dropped math. I was in AP Calc and sucked at it, and I dropped it because it was going to tank my overall GPA. And then my mom was like, you can't drop science too. Like, you're not doing a whole school year with no math or science. So I stayed in physics, hated it, was terrible at it. My teacher was pretty bad. I was a really good student. I got, like, over 90s in, like, everything. And then the state exam for physics was literally the day before my graduation, and I didn't have to pass it or anything. So, like, I did not study for the final whatsoever, and I still got, like, a 78 on it or something. I was like, whoa, yeah. That was actually kind of impressive.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's good. I kind of look at it like we're an Orioles rewatch podcast, like Office Ladies or whatever those losers from Scrubs are doing on their Scrubs podcast. But it makes sense because our show name is a parody of a TV show.
That's true. And we are Scrubs.
Yeah, we are. Compared to other Orioles podcasters, we're the Scrubs.
Yes.
I would cross a Orioles podcast picket line.
For what?
Just to keep recording.
Yeah, there you go.
If they all banded together to try and get some money from the Orioles or something, I'd be like, nah, we're staying on the air. We don't have any advertisers to appease.
Only made up ones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we'll get into this Game 5, Red Sox at Orioles, Monday, March 31st. We got Sean Newcomb versus Cade Povich.
Yeah, the O's started hot against Newcomb, pushing 2 across on 4 consecutive singles to start by Westberg, Rutschman, O'Neill, and Mountcastle. Then with 2 outs and O'Neill and Mountcastle on second and third, Cedric Mullins doubled to right center, and they made it 4-0.
Yeah, that's a good way to kick off the home opener. 4 runs in the first inning.
It looked like a super fun atmosphere. It was a beautiful day, opening day at Camden Yards, and people were just going ape shit, and that would have been awesome to be at.
Yeah, no weather problems. They moved the start time up because they were afraid of some incoming storms and avoided all that. Remember, I think it was last year they canceled it and it was a beautiful day.
It seemed like that happened a couple times. The one opening day I went to was 2017, I think 2017, and it was kind of gray and cloudy and like 50 degrees. It wasn't a terrible day, but it was certainly not as nice as it was the other day this year.
Povich walks the first batter in the second inning. Rookie Christian Campbell, Romy Gonzalez single. Jaron Duran brings them both in with a triple. It's now 4-2. Povich had 5 strikeouts through the first 2 innings.
5 strikeouts and also some kind of hard contact. I wasn't sure what to think about that start from him.
Then Ref Snyder singles in the third. He came into the game with a 941 OPS against left-handers, and then he's scoring a Christian Campbell ground out, and it's 4-3 Orioles all of a sudden.
The two bullpens combined to allow very little until the bottom of the 8th, when Justin Slayton of the Red Sox allowed 3 straight singles to start the inning, the last of which was an RBI from Kjerstad to stretch the O's lead to 5-3.
Do you see Bregman literally fall on his face on the ground ball? It looked like he broke his nose, but there were no reports of that afterward.
Yeah.
A couple days later, though, you could see his
Right, he
nose
still
got
had
messed
that big
up.
gash. And it was funny because I don't know if it was Ben or I think it was Ben McDonald was talking about how Devers didn't want to give up playing third base. And he was like, well, you see on that play, like Bregman didn't make the play and made the error of throwing it into the outfield, but he at least got to the ball, and Devers never would have. So it's kind of the same result by accident.
It was nice to see Kjerstad get the start against the left-hander. He had a couple strikeouts early in the game. He drove in a run with that opposite field single. Mateo would replace him as a pinch runner and steal a base. Dylan Carlson drew a walk to load the bases. Then Boston made the pitching change for Cooper Criswell. Then Mullins and Holiday bring in Mateo, Mountcastle, and Carlson with a couple of RBI singles. 4 runs on 5 hits, a walk, and an error. This game is 8-3.
It was 8-3, and then Felix Bautista came in to great applause for a non-save opportunity, and that was a good thing because he struggled. He walked Christian Campbell, and Campbell advanced on a wild pitch, then scored on a Gonzalez double. After groundouts by Colton Wong? No, Connor Wong and Tristan Casas, Duran then singled home Gonzalez to make it 8-5. Devers walked, so the tying run was at the plate with 2 outs, but Bautista got Bregman to pop up, and that ended the game.
Yeah, everybody got to go home happy. It's good to see Felix back on the mound at Camden Yards for the first time since August 25th, 2023.
That was awesome. I was also really glad that the broadcast stayed on to watch that rather than going to commercial. That was definitely got goosebumps watching that for sure.
Every Red Sox starter struck out at least once. Story and Devers combined for 6 Ks. Boston was 3 for 14 with runners in scoring position. 2 of those hits came from Jaron Duran. He's pretty good.
He's a very good player. I think he was the MVP of the All-Star game last year when I went to the game. I should remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I remember the Rockies catcher was the MVP the year before.
Right. I couldn't even tell you what his name is anymore.
I think it was Elias Diaz.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sounds right.
Close enough. I would say you're right, but I don't know if it's true.
I did give out 3 stars. Number 3, Tyler O'Neill. He went 4 for 4, 3 singles and a double, RBI and a run scored. That tied his career high for hits.
The revenge game.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. Ryan Mountcastle, the day after the trade rumor report, he goes 2 for 3, 2 runs scored, 1 RBI, 1 walk. This race is averaged from 154 to 250. I feel like if you trade him, that's kind of raising the white flag a little bit, especially if you trade him early.
Yeah, we talked about this. There's no point in doing that right now.
No, I don't like it. And number 1, Cedric Mullins. He got a standing ovation during the pregame ceremonies. He went 2 for 4 RBI. That brought his total to 10 RBI through 5 games. The only other Orioles with 10 or more RBI through 5 games were Chris Davis in 2013 and Charles Johnson in 2000.
Chris Davis is one of those you probably could have guessed, but Charles Johnson I would have never thought.
Yeah, he wasn't really known for his RBI prowess. You mentioned Mullins as a possible extension candidate.
Yeah, I was going to say, extend him. He's earning it.
Drop the bomb, because I had never considered it. I know many Orioles fans aren't considering it. The more I thought about it all week, the more I was like, let's do it. And Judd Fabian and Dylan Beavers are off to slow starts in Norfolk. I think they're a ways away. Bradfield's he's played like less than 30 games at AA. I don't think anybody in their outfield is close. So, yeah, and Mullins fan favorite. Some people will complain just because I don't think they are ready for a Mullins extension or had even considered it, but let's fucking do it. Let's extend Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, I mean, for such a young team, if you look at all the veterans they have, to me, he's like by far the most prominent, like the face of the team, so to speak, if you're not talking about Gunnar and Agley. And you need older players. Everybody who tries to rebuild without any veterans fails miserably.
Never works.
I don't know a thing about Mullins. He seems kind of quiet, but also seems like he's, the classic professional who just does his job and does things the right way. And it certainly helps a young team to have guys like that around.
And you won't be breaking the bank for him. You can do it for 3 or 4 years. Yeah, great idea. You got me on board at least.
I'm going to be pushing for it all year until he gets hurt or something. Then I'll be like, no, I told you, you shouldn't extend it.
He can be very streaky, so.
Yeah.
This brings us to Tuesday, April Fool's Day. Garrett Crochet versus Zach Evelyn. And Garrett Crochet certainly made the Orioles look like fools on this one.
Yeah, this might already be in the running for the shortest game recap of the year because there's really nothing to say. Trevor Story hit a solo home run with 1 out in the second to give the Sox a lead that they wouldn't relinquish. And they scored a couple more and the O's did nothing.
Yeah, top 5, Christian Campbell, who I have on my fantasy team, by the way. I picked him up last year and stashed him in the minors.
Oh, there you go. Congrats on that one.
Yeah, at least this is paying off for me. Campbell led off with a double, his 4th of the season already. Rafaela, RBI single, made it 2-0. Devers is up. He's 0 for 21 to start the season. He rips a 110-mile-per-hour double to right field. Rafaela is sent home as Tyler O'Neill misses the cutoff man. Mateo gets the ball around second base. He throws a ball that Gary Sanchez has to jump for at home plate. Boston is up 3-0. Westberg made a great play to end the inning, or else Devers would have scored as well. And Devers is 7 for 19 with 2 home runs in his career off of Eflin.
Ooh. Yeah, that was a good way for him to break out of his slump, huh? All the talk around the Red Sox was how crappy he was, and then he just blasted that one.
And despite scoring 8 runs on Monday, after the first 2 games of the series, the Orioles were held scoreless in 16 of 18 innings.
This game, they put just 1 runner on second base the whole game, and that was in the second inning. It was just literally no offense.
And CNL Perez, his early season woes were on full display in the 9th. He threw 30 pitches. He walked the bases loaded. He got a double play ball to hide all the bodies, but he's already behind Matt Bowman and Brian Baker in terms of bullpen trust.
No, Perez is washed. They need lefty bullpen help bad. I mean, between him and Aiken, who hasn't started out that great either, like they don't have anybody. I do not know why they didn't sign Kua, unless he was hurt, but he's been playing, so I don't understand.
I think I saw he's scoreless through 3 innings this season as well.
Oh, that makes me feel terrible.
Mullins Cowsered in the 5th inning when he struck out to end the inning on a pitch that would hit him in the hands.
Luckily, no breaks.
Mullins also misplayed 2 balls in the outfield. It didn't cost him anything, but it was kind of weird to see. He also made a great catch, though.
Yeah, you don't see him misplay balls very often. If there's one consistent thing about this team, it's generally Mullins' defense.
The highlight of this game was Ben McDonald doing a demonstration with the torpedo bat, and the bat didn't appear as drastic as I had envisioned last week when you asked me about it. So I'm not as worried about them now as I was when this scandal first started a week ago. Barbacast had a good point that now the pitchers have to adjust to missing the barrels of these bats. I'm an old white man. Change is slow for me.
Right. Yeah, I guess try to pitch them outside if you got the thicker part of the barrel down lower on the bat. It'll be interesting to see somebody get one off the end of the bat on one of those things and see what happens.
That's what I was going to say. In theory, you would think it would just right in front of the plate.
Right. It would be like getting jammed on a normal bat. It probably wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And then this was Crochet's first start after signing a 6-year, $170 million extension. He looked like a guy who was pitching with the ease of no financial worries going forward.
There's that word again, extension.
Yeah, Crochet could be a good comparison for a Grayson extension because both of them are 25 years old. Crochet has made 32 career starts. Grayson has made 43 career starts.
Okay.
Crochet has done more with those starts though than Grayson has.
I was going to say, I feel like Crochet's a lot better.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are major differences between the two in terms of service time. Grayson was drafted out of high school 11th overall in 2020. Crochet was 11th overall. No, Grayson was drafted out of high school in 2018. Crochet was drafted 11th overall in 2020. Crochet debuted the following season where he made 54 relief appearances. Then he would miss all of 2022 and most of 2023, and then he broke out last year in 24. So he has 4 years of service time already, despite only making 32 starts.
He went to Tennessee. I did not know that.
And Grayson only has 2 years of service time. He's not a free agent until after 2029. Crochet was going to be a free agent after next season.
That extension's looking good so far for the Red Sox.
And the Red Sox were more willing to give him an extension knowing they traded a pile of prospects for him. If you trade young players for players, you don't want them to walk away at the end.
Yeah, imagine that. They probably had some inkling that they could keep him around rather than trading for a dude that wanted to go play in Phoenix.
Yeah, so despite some similarities between the two, like their extension negotiating power is vastly different.
Yes, I would agree with that for sure.
I know some Orioles fans are pining for Kyle Tucker's pending free agency. I don't think there's any way he leaves the Cubs, especially when you consider what they gave up to get him.
There was an article in The Athletic that I didn't read yet about the Cubs and how they're making money and not spending it. So they might not. I don't know. But I don't know if the O's need an outfielder, but it's not like you couldn't find room for Tucker because he's very good.
Yeah, at this point, I think Orioles fans just want to see the team give money to somebody. Yeah.
Even if it's like that Clancy, the beer vendor, like just pay somebody.
Chris Davis again, it's like anything. It's
yeah.
If Cam Smith has a big season for the Astros, you wonder if that would make the Cubs even more willing to fork over some extra cash to keep Tucker.
Yeah, to make it look not as bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And Christian Campbell, he got an 8-year, $60 million extension. Did his mailman negotiate this thing? Because his contract is very, very team friendly.
I don't know, but he probably was like, "Hey, you're offering me $60 million, and I'm gonna take it because who knows what'll happen in the future."
Did you see the structure of the deal?
I don't recall it off the top of my head, but I know that there's team options at the end for like a lot of money, and he's not making a ton before that, right?
Yeah, $29 million of the $60 million guaranteed is in the last 2 years of the deal. Then there's the 2 option years that'll total another $40 million. But years 25 through 2030, he's basically on welfare.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart by him. Like, when you have $60 million, what's the difference between $60 million and $100 million? Like, it won't affect your life. You're loaded either way. So he was probably like, yeah, give me $60 million. That sounds awesome. And I would do the same thing, I think.
Yeah. If somehow he doesn't live up to he is playing great right now, but if somehow he trails off by the latter half of this deal and the Red Sox trade him, the team that accepts the trade is gonna be on the fork for half of the money, so this will work out great either way.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it might make it a little harder to trade him, but
Well, if he ends up, like, in a package, like one of those, "If you want this guy, you gotta take this guy," type deals.
yeah. I'm just looking him up. He was only drafted 2 years ago, in 2023. That's
Yeah,
pretty
he's very
crazy that
good.
he's already getting an extension.
I think he was a 4th rounder too, he wasn't even
4th round out of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is where Nomar played, I think. And Veritech, I want to say.
Oh, yeah.
Let's actually, now that I said that, I should look it up. Let's
And
see.
if he stinks, you could just decline the 2 options too.
Right. Yeah, we got Georgia Tech, most games played. All right, trivia question for you. Maryland guy, O's fans really wanted to sign him. First
Teixeira.
baseman. Yep. He's the most games played of any Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. Also, Charlie Blackman, Marlon Byrd, Veritech, Nomar, Weeders, Jay Payton.
Ooh, Jay Payton.
Number
Former
2
Tide.
is a guy named Del Pratt, who played from 1912 to 1924.
Yeah, that explains why I never heard of him, at least.
Right.
So this brings us to Wednesday, April 2nd, Tanner Houck versus Charlie Morton, Game 7 of the season.
Yeah, the Morton experiment has continued to look like a poor one as Devers walked with 1 out in the first to bring up Alex Bregman, who hit a meatball for his first home run in a Boston uniform and a 2-0 lead.
Top 2, no Gunner, no Cowser, so we have the return of leadoff Cedric Mullins. He immediately rewards Brandon Hyde with his decisions 2-1 Orioles. Mullins has batted 7 different spots in the first 10 games of the season, which is like the most ever.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's weird. The second inning saw another walk-homer combination for the Red Sox as Abreu reached before Christian Campbell, who we just talked about, homered to left for a 4-1 lead.
Yeah, Campbell's going to be a problem in the AL East for a long time. Morton was at 46 pitches through 2 innings at this point. Houck starts the inning with 2 strikeouts of Urias and Carlson. He'd follow that up with 2 walks of Mullins and Adley, and then Westberg comes up and delivers a first pitch swinging single to score Mullins 4-2.
Boston scored again in the fourth as Abreu, Campbell, and Rafaela singled to load the bases with 1 out. Duran then hit a sac fly to score Abreu for a 5-2 Red Sox lead.
Bottom 4, Kjerstad doubles and later scores on an RBI single from Urias. Urias has been great lately.
He definitely plays better when he's playing more, which is probably like normal, but it just seems with him it's very obvious because there are stretches where he doesn't play and then he comes in and is garbage. And then someone gets hurt and then you're just like, oh yeah, this guy's good.
Yeah, you have to wonder if last year they were kind of like, okay, he's our utility man. Don't really worry about him too much. Then he starts playing and you saw how good he was. He was undeniable down the stretch when they needed him to be before he got injured himself. So you wonder now if they're going to force him in the lineup a little more this season than they probably intended.
Being a utility guy or like a pinch hitting specialist is probably not easy, and some people like probably just don't thrive in spots like that. And I think Arias is a guy who just is better when he's in the lineup consistently.
Charlie Morton struck out the side in the 5th. It gave him 10 strikeouts on the day. And 10 strikeouts are fun and all, but I'm not putting too much stock into that. To me, it tells me he was pitching desperate, not pitching to contact, which is kind of his bread and butter. I also heard him being praised for his elevated velocity in the first start when he also performed poorly. So, yeah, it's fun to see a 41-year-old striking dudes out and throwing it 96, 97, but you really want him dialing it up that early in starts when you're 41 years old? At this point, he's thrown 178 pitches through 8 1/3 innings so far.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, it's also not surprising that the oldest starter in Orioles history is not doing well. But I don't think either of us saw him performing this poorly.
No, yeah, I definitely talked myself into the signing. I'm not giving up on him yet, but the early results are not promising, especially when you saw Tanner Houck get through 5 pitches in the 5th inning after Morton,
Right.
threw so many pitches in this one. He did. Maybe if he didn't give up the 2 home runs or whatever, it would have looked a little different. Well, we'll find out next start.
We will.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on him in this next start, I think. More than anybody would have anticipated this early.
Well, you have to think there's a reason they signed Kyle Gibson, right? Like, you didn't need a 5th starter who is like 37 or however old he is.
Right. What was the breaking point to make them call Kyle Gibson? Was it Suarez's poor spring, knowing he might be injured? Was it Grayson's injury? Was it Charlie Morton maybe showing some things analytically that they were concerned with? All of the above?
Probably all.
But that brought us to the 7th with Aiken in. He made things worse. He immediately served up a 2-run blast to Tristan Casas. Bregman had a garbage time RBI double, and that was our 8-3 final after the Orioles tacked one on in the 9th.
Yeah, 8-4 final. Holiday had his first double of the season in the bottom of the 9th, and then he scored, but it didn't matter.
He's playing very well.
He is. I'm happy to see that.
I was a little irked when Brandon Hyde pinch hit Mountcastle for Kjerstad in the 6th inning. He had a chance to pinch hit for O'Hearn when he led off the inning, because then he put Ryan O'Hearn in right field. And if you have 5 outfielders on the roster, which they did at this point with Carlson still on the roster, and O'Hearn is an outfield, that is, what are we doing? What
Negligence.
Are we doing? Yeah, so that bothered me a little bit, because you're not putting your best players in their best positions. It wasn't an extra inning game. Like, he didn't get forced into putting Ryan O'Hearn into right field. He just did it because he thinks it's acceptable.
He felt like it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's you do it because you're like, what are the odds somebody hits one out there and he looks like an idiot, and then it happens. You're like, oh shit.
And Kjerstad had doubled earlier in the game.
Yeah, and he needs those chances.
Yep. After the game, Charlie Morton had a career high in WHIP. That includes a 2010 season where he went 2-12 with a 7.57 ERA and a negative 2.4 WAR for Pittsburgh.
Well, it might be early to be comparing season-long stats, but
it is. But when you look at a guy who's played for 15 years or whatever, and you see a career high in WHIP, you're like, oh shit! Especially with how bad he was early in his career.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, for every player, there's a point where you're just not good enough anymore, and the Orioles might be learning that about Morton right now.
He was the first pitcher since Mike Mussina in 1998 with 10 Ks and 5 earned runs in a start. So this was a historic performance in some regards.
Put him in the Hall of Fame next to Mussina's plaque.
And the 10 strikeouts look even more fluky when you realize Boston is second in the major leagues. In strikeouts, they had 75 through 7 games at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I didn't even think of that.
I did some deep dives on Charlie Morton after this one. Those were my own stats.
Trying to make yourself feel better, and the more
you
learn,
made it worse.
Right.
So then we go to Kansas City, Friday, April 4th, Game 8, Dean Kramer versus Seth Lugo. Mullins was batting cleanup in this one, and this was Gunnar Henderson's first game of the season.
Yeah, thankfully. Welcome back, Gunnar, even though wouldn't really help in this one, huh?
No, Salvador Perez is up in the first with 2 outs. Bobby Witt's on first base. He has an 11-pitch at bat. After 3 straight foul balls, he hit a fly ball to Kjerstad and left, and this was bad timing for me because Kjerstad lost the ball in the wind. And last episode, I had questioned if Kjerstad was as bad as defensively as some others think he might be. And, when you do a podcast, you're going to say some dumb things on the record. And this didn't work out for me. I was listening back last episode too, and we were discussing, possible endings for the Orioles season. And I had mentioned I'd be fine if they just made it to the World Series and even lost. As I was listening, I was like, what the hell am I talking about? And I realized it's because I can't even let myself consider them winning it all. And I don't know if that's because, the Orioles front office might not be trying to win it all at times, but I was like, come on, man, you want to see him win.
Well, I mean, the way they're playing right now, they're giving you good reason to not consider them winning.
Yeah, I'm more invested in this team than any grown man at my age should be. So
In the top of the second inning, though, the O's would get a couple back when Ryan O'Hearn led off with a walk, followed by a Tyler O'Neill double and a Heston Kjerstad single that scored O'Hearn. O'Neill was called out at home, though, and the call was upheld upon review, so it was 1-1.
yeah, that call was never going to be overturned. I mean, it was a bad challenge, but I guess if you're going to challenge a play at the plate, I mean, you can't take the challenges with you. So if you think you can get a run out of it, but yeah, he was clearly out. At this point, Kevin and Ben were talking about possible nicknames for O'Hearn and O'Neill. One of them pitch was the O Bros. I was trying to think of one. The only one I could come up with was the Apostrophe Boys.
I'm sure there's something with like some Irish connection you could think of too if you thought long enough.
Tony Monzolino got a lot of shit for that send too, because that was a shallow ball in left field that O'Neill tried to score on.
He makes some interesting decisions over there at third base. It's not the first time we've talked about that guy. And you shouldn't be talking about the third base coach very often.
Right, yeah, you don't want to know his name. After all the coaching changes between seasons, that was one I was like, oh, you had an opportunity here to...
I mean, what harm would it do if you just switched Sanders and Mansolino?
That's interesting.
Like, what is the first base coach? Like, honestly, what do they really do? They don't do a whole lot. They collect the batting gloves and make sure they know how many outs there are.
The fourth inning, Salvador Perez reached on a Gunnar Henderson error. Dean Kramer would strike out Massey. Kevin Biggio would single. Then during Michael Garcia's at bat, I saw Dean shake his arm. You know, we all know the arm shake. We've seen Felix and Bradish do it before. Before I could talk myself off the ledge, like I was nothing, they showed Brandon Hyde and the trainer coming out of the dugout. And then the next pitch, Dean spiked into the ground too. So you're like, oh God.
Yeah, they know all too well what that arm shake means.
Then he took a liner up the middle that he got out of the way. But the Royals would score 2 runs, and that was pretty much ball game for this one. This game was not good.
Yeah, and then to build on your Dean anecdote, I mean, he came out for the bottom of the fifth, and 3 straight guys hit the ball. I mean, he got Witt on a ground out, but then 2 singles after that before he got yanked. So I don't think that's a good sign.
He got no help from the defense in this one. The weather was pretty poor. Yeah, so he deserved a little bit better. CNL Perez was atrocious again. He allowed 5 runs on 3 hits. You wonder how long that's going to be tolerated.
No, that guy is done. The O's need lefties. They need lefties, and they don't have any. Unless you put Povich in the bullpen, which would be stupid. They have nothing.
Right, yeah. That is a possibility with, Gibson knocking on the door maybe. I didn't even think of that. The Povich might find himself in the bullpen. Not something I want to see, but at least it'd be understandable.
Yeah, I'd rather see him making starts. I also think generally, it's not a rule, so to speak, but you generally want guys with really good stuff in the bullpen that can play over a short span. And he's just, I mean, it's not like he throws 88, but he's just not overpowering. And
he throws a lot of pitches sometimes that he works his way out of. As a starter, he's afforded that extra time to work his way out of a mess. As a reliever, you don't want to see him make a mess and then get pulled. Now the next guy is allowing
Brian
all these
Baker
inherited
comes
runners
in and lets them all score or something. I don't know.
He's been very good lately.
Yeah, no, he is.
But yeah, there's still some trust to be earned. Ben McDonald showed a thing where Baker's arm angle was at like 57 degrees the last 5 years or so, and this year he's pitching from 51 degrees. So that might explain why he's getting better results.
Yeah, I mean, it seems slight, but I think pitching is such an exact science, so to speak, that I think that probably would have a big effect. And it's surely something he worked on to change that.
Yeah, he's fun to watch when he is going well. That's something we've always said, and he's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Gunnar made 3 errors while in Norfolk on his rehab assignment, so this one in the 4th inning was his 4th of the season in only 6 games. One of those games in Norfolk he DH'd in, and another one he was removed after 7 innings, so I'm again gonna beat my drum for Gunnar at third base.
I do not disagree.
And the Orioles were 47 and 53 in their last 100 games after this loss, so people were
Ooh,
panicking.
I don't think I knew that. That's disturbing.
Which is crazy because they have such a young, vibrant roster, and sometimes they just look so stale,
Right.
which is kind of impressive when you're just like, how can this team with Holiday, Rutschman, Gunner, Cowser's out, but Kerstad, Tyler Neal's very exciting. Like, how can they just disappear for entire games sometimes?
It is they do seem to not have the pitching and the hitting on the same wavelength. It seems like one of them will be clicking and the other won't.
Yeah. The Orioles have not recorded a save through the first 8 games of the season for the first time since 2003 when Jorge Julio was a closer. He recorded 36 saves that season, but the team only won 71 games.
They've only had one game so far that they've won by 3 or less, and that was the game where Bautista allowed a couple runs in the ninth. So
Yeah, because they're either scoring a lot of runs or no runs.
right.
So this loss also put them 2 games under 500 for the first time since July of 2022. And they had to work at that point to get 2 games under 500. Remember, they started out the season very poorly, and then Adley showed up and they started winning.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Uh,
things are not great in Bergland right now.
Yeah, Steve Molesky has a Substack that I recommend everybody subscribing to. He's doing a great job over there. He even seems rejuvenated a little bit since leaving Masson. I look forward to his emails now every day. The articles aren't too long; they're very informative. But Steve Molesky is very patient and he's very optimistic. After the 7th game, his Substack was like, "Relax, it's 7 games, don't worry." After this game, he was like, "Okay, the vibes are off. Something needs to change." So I'm not making fun of him for that. I'm just saying, like, people were freaking out after this game, but we got to Saturday, game number 9, Suganu versus Michael Waka.
Yeah, this was a good rebound for Sugano as the O's took the lead in the second inning. Mountcastle led off with a single, followed by an O'Neill walk. Then with 2 outs, Gary Sanchez singled to score both of them and gave the O's a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, 1-2 fastball punched into center field. Sanchez came into this game 0 for 9 in his career versus Waka. And then I want to talk about 2 missed opportunities for both the Royals and the Orioles in the second and third innings. Suganu was cruising in the second when Kyle Isbell reached with a 2-out single. Suganu then issued a walk and followed that up with a pass ball or wild pitch. I can't remember which one it was. But both runners got into scoring position with first base open. They decided to pitch to Bobby Witt. And it worked out. Witt grounded out to first base at Mountcastle. But wow, it would have been tough to lose this game 2-1 with Bobby Witt delivering the only runs batted in like they did in the playoffs last year.
Right. When you could have walked him.
Yeah, and Suganu was very good. He was in command. He had, I think, because his velocity is lower than most pitchers, I think batters go up there salivating, and he's so good at moving the ball around that they just don't know where it's going, but they're going up there looking to swing, and he just makes them look foolish. He did in this start, and you hope to see more of it going forward because he was as advertised in this start.
Yeah, that was kind of his MO when he played in Japan, right? Is just being an excellent at controlling where it goes. And I'd like to see some longer starts out of him, but maybe that'll come with time.
Yeah, he was 2 outs away from, you know, a quality start in this one, but very low stress, very low energy, keeping guys off balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Saganu I wanted to see when I found out who the hell he was when they signed him, and I, you know, saw the low walk rates and stuff like that. But the Orioles had a missed opportunity then in the third. Jackson Holiday had a perfectly placed ball into the gap for a 2-out triple. So that turns the order around because he was batting ninth. Gunnar Henderson is up. He would strike out looking. Gunnar struck out 4 times and 5 at bats in this game.
Got to get used to that major league pitching again, I guess.
Yeah. And
It's
maybe
like,
he doesn't like DHing either, like Devers.
right. Yeah, I mean, Gunnar hasn't faced major leaguers in like a month, and that presumes that whoever was pitching against him in spring training was actually a major league pitcher. So it could be longer than that. In the 6th inning, the O's stretched their lead. Westberg was out as the first batter of the inning, but the O's did some damage. Mullins singled, followed by a Mountcastle single and an O'Neill flyout. So with 2 outs, Sam Long came in to replace Waka. Kerstad singled to score Mullins. Wild pitch advanced the runners. Arias singled to score Mountcastle. A walk loads the bases. Then Holiday singles to score Kerstad and Arias, and suddenly it's 6-0 before Gunnar ends the inning with a strikeout.
Yeah, Gunnar was responsible for 3 of the 7 Orioles left on base in this one. And Mullins got that party started with a 1-out bunt, and he might have saved the season. That was great. More bunting. I want more bunting.
There's a time and a place for bunts. I don't mind them sometimes.
Yeah, I love it. I'm pro bunt.
Pro bunt.
But you're right. There's a time and a place for it. It's tough to give away.
I don't think anyone on this team's really good at it. Mullins
Mateo
included.
should be better at it, right?
We've talked about that, I think. It's like if
Yeah.
Mateo could bunt, he could bunt for singles, but he doesn't because he can't.
The 6th inning, Bobby Witt crushed one off Sugano. It was Sugano's 77th pitch of the game. It's now 6-1. Sugano will get 1 out before allowing a single, and then he hit Michael Massey with a pitch in the foot. Massey didn't even try and get out of the way, but I guess you don't need to when Sugano's throwing, in the low 90s.
I mean, that's still got to hurt. With Sugano's control, do you think he meant to hit him?
No, but yeah, you wanted to see him get that quality start. At least I did. But Brian Baker came in, 3 pitches, instant double play ball. It was incredible.
Almost like Brian Baker was really good.
It was the first double play the Royals have hit into this year. And remember, we brought up that article last week of the Orioles. Now they're hitting into a double play every game, it seems like.
There was one game against the Red Sox, I think 3 innings in a row they ended with a double play.
That's crazy. Like, how did this become a thing?
They're not breaking that record again. I can tell you that.
No, they're on pace for like 160 double plays.
In the top of the 7th, Chris Stratton was on the mound for the Royals. Westberg singled and Mullins walked. Then with 1 out, Tyler O'Neill hit one deep to center field that ended up as a triple and scored both of those runners, and it was 8-1 Orioles.
Yeah, that was it, really, right? That was the final?
That was the final, 8-1.
I did give out 3 stars. The bottom of the order, 6 through 9. That's Kerstad, Arias, Gary Sanchez, and Jackson Holiday. They combined to go 6 for 16, 2 runs scored, 6 RBI, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. If you do that, you're going to win every game. If the bottom of your order is hitting like that.
Right. And the top, besides Gunnar, did pretty well also. So
Sugano, number 2 star, first career Major League victory. I didn't see any pictures or videos of it. I don't know if they're out there or not. But apparently he got like a Gatorade bath in the clubhouse. That's fun.
Nice.
But, yeah. I wanted to give him the number 1 star, but that goes to Brandon Hyde. I got to give him some credit here.
All right. That's a first for you.
No, he's gone in the past. I like Brandon Hyde. I want to see him win with his team. Last year he lost me a little bit, but yeah, I don't hate him. I've never called for him to be fired.
True.
Yet.
You've said he could be, and he might be, but not that he should be.
Yes, big difference.
Yes.
In the 6th inning, Kansas City made a pitching change. Going into the commercial, Kevin Brown said it'll be interesting to see if we see Laureano pinch hitting for Kerstad here. And I fully expected to see Laureano standing in the box when they came back from commercial break. But there was Kerstad, getting in that bat against the lefty. Kerstad rewarded him with a RBI single, I think. But after the play, Ben McDonald said, good for Heston Kerstad and good for Brandon Hyde. I think Kjerstad's slowly heating up. You can see him starting to poke balls around. Once he starts hitting with more power too, once the weather starts heating up. He smoked a ball in the 4th inning that Witt snagged that it got turned into a double play because O'Neill was getting ready to round third base because it was hit so hard. Maybe that convinced Hyde to leave him in, seeing that ball that he smoked, that Bobby Witt had no business catching that ball.
Yeah, I mean, Kjerstad's in a small sample size. He's hitting 294. He hasn't had a lot of power yet, but, 294 is a solid clip for anybody, let alone a dude who's played like 100 games. Probably
let me
less
see if
than
I
that.
can find something from this article worth talking about. The article's headline is, "We're about to find out a lot about Heston Kjerstad." It's written by Michael Bauman.
Mike Bauman. Is he
Yeah,
a
things
writer
aren't
now?
going well for him. Korea didn't work out.
Kjerstad's only played 59 games as of today, so.
The article goes into the decision to draft Kjerstad. A lot of college players were drafted that year because they couldn't scout because of the COVID thing, and the draft was only 5 rounds. Michael Bauman said he would have drafted Austin Martin out of Vanderbilt, and apparently he's not doing too well. Right. So it's good that the jury is still out on Kjerstad as opposed to, like a final bust.
Right.
Who drafted Austin Martin? The Twins, right?
He was Blue Jays, but he got traded really early, I remember. Let's see. He was drafted by the Blue Jays, but then got traded in 2021 with Simeon Woods Richardson for Jose Barrios.
Okay. Yeah, good trade for the Blue Jays. So Kjerstad is 93rd in hard hit rate from the start of the 2023 season through Wednesday's games. 530 players have batted 150 more times. He's 1 spot ahead of Max Muncy. And the next 20 spots on the list are guys like O'Hearn, Lawrence Butler, Cal Raleigh, who just got an extension,
Right.
and Kyle Tucker.
You know who the O's got with their second pick that year after Kjerstad, 30th overall? They got Jordan Westburg.
Yeah, good draft. That's what no one can knock Elias's drafted. You may want him to give out extensions and be unhappy that he hasn't committed to one superstar guy long term from outside the organization as well. But you can't knock his drafting.
I do kind of wish they would draft more pitchers, though. Like that's been a thing. Is like they don't draft pitchers in the first couple rounds, and then it's showing now in their system.
Absolutely, I thought they were going to last year. Ben McDonald mentioned last night he thinks they're going to do it this year. They should take a college pitcher too. Maybe get one of those freak guys who can help you down the stretch.
Right, like who's that guy in the Angels? Ben Joyce, I think his name is, who throws like 103, and he was drafted in 2022 and has already been in the majors for 3 years.
Then after Saturday's game, my Cincinnati Bengals prediction of a high scoring but high allowing runs scored prediction is looking pretty good. The O's are second in the American League in runs scored and tied for 4th worst with most runs allowed. The Bengals on the season were 3rd in the AFC in points scored and 4th in points allowed.
There you go. So Joe Burrow is like Agley or Gunner, and then they got their Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in the other one plus Westberg.
Yeah, we could do this. Joe Burrow, I would say, is Gunner. T. Higgins would be...
I'd say Westberg. Like good, but like not quite as hyped.
I wanted to say Adley, but I was leaning Westberg there. I was getting ready to say Westberg. And Jamar Chase, who would that be?
I mean, Jamar Chase is better than any of the Orioles as far as like relative to the rest of the league, but he'd be Agley. You got to have your other young star, but
face of the franchise.
And then they do have like one good defensive player. What's that guy, Hendrickson?
Yeah, who's on possible trade block right now. That you could have said that was Cowser, but he's out.
Be like Mullins, maybe.
Ooh, yeah. I'm never going to dispute Mullins getting praise. Tyler O'Neill. You wonder if the Blue Jays should have just signed Tyler O'Neill instead of Santander. Santander has not homered yet. He has a 527 OPS going into yesterday's game I was looking at. And then O'Neill is Canadian.
All of Canada loves they definitely love Canadians. Like anytime if you know anybody Canadian and you like bring up something and somebody comes up in conversation, they're like, "Oh, that guy's Canadian." They always point it out.
That is easy marketing for them. So yeah, the Orioles acted quickly on Tyler O'Neill, and they're being rewarded for it.
Yeah, he's been solid so far.
And that's it for the game recaps. I'm going to do Sunday's game by myself. I'm going to squeeze it in here seamlessly. No one will know.
Yeah, I got a schedule that doesn't allow me to watch the game or record later. And 2 children that I'm sure you've heard in the background.
Yeah, we'll see how good the Riverside editing system is.
Right. I tried to mute myself when I could, but it only works so much.
Game 10, Orioles at Royals, Sunday, April 6th. We got Cade Povich versus Chris Bubich. Before the game starts, we got an interesting lineup for this matchup with Gary Sanchez at DH and Jorge Mateo in center field. Bottom first, Bobby Witt immediately tested Jorge Mateo in center field, and let's just say that Jorge Mateo does not make a routine catch. And when I say routine, it had a 99% catch rate. The ball rolls to the wall as Bobby Witt is flying around the bases for a triple. Credit to Bobby Witt for running hard out of the box on a ball that you'd be hard-pressed to find any other Major League center fielder misplay that poorly. After the play, Ben McDonald said, "I'm not sure what happened here." Well, what happened is Brandon Hyde and the Orioles front office are not putting their players in their best positions. 3/4 of the infield is out of position. We mentioned that earlier. That's how we feel anyway. Henderson is out of position, forcing Westberg out of position, forcing young Jackson Holliday out of position. Ryan O'Hearn is in the outfield on occasion. O'Hearn isn't even good defensively at the position he's supposed to be good at defensively. And why would you do this on a day you have your rookie starting pitcher on the mound, putting Jorge Mateo in center field? You're not doing anyone any favors. So thumbs down all around. The Orioles deserve to lose games when they do shit like this. And when I say the Orioles, I mean the front office and the manager and the coaches, not the players. The players didn't do this. This was just dumb. If you want an outfielder on your roster, you should have just kept Dylan Carlson up and DFA'd Jorge Mateo when Gunnar returned. Anyway, the Royals scored 3 runs on 4 hits, and this game was essentially over after the first inning because the Orioles only scored 1 run. And that was not until the 7th inning when Mountcastle scored from third on a Bubich wild pitch after a triple. So even the 1 run they did score, it was a gift. They didn't even drive it in. This was the first run scored on Bubich in 2 starts so far this season. I don't know. Quick notes here. Chris Bubich was excellent, 99 pitches through 6 2/3. The Royals bullpen was literally unhittable. 3 relievers got 2 holds and a save in 2 1/3 while not allowing a base runner. Gunnar Henderson's slow start continued, going 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. That's now 1 for 13 with 7 Ks. That's not exactly the knight in shining armor we were hoping for when he returned for this series. And this sounds insane, but it almost feels like they want Gunnar Henderson at shortstop for marketing purposes. So that's my new tinfoil hat. And before we go, Mountcastle had 3 of the team's 5 hits. Ramon Urias was the only Oriole to draw a walk. The Orioles were 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. The Orioles only surrendered 4 runners in this game, and 2 of those were in the first inning. This was a dreadful Sunday performance. Cade Povich gave up 13 hits, but still managed to go 6 innings on only 88 pitches. You don't see that every day. Povich only gave up 1 run after Jorge Mateo's early blunder butchered the first inning. And this game just unraveled from that. Opponents are batting .400 off of Povich after giving up 18 hits and 10 in the third. That doesn't seem sustainable in either direction. So I guess on the bright side in this game, the Orioles only hit into one double play. So we could do a Quiz Torres, and we'll follow that up with Media Corner, and we'll send you guys on your way. We did names last week. It was John and George.
John and George. Is this Paul and Ringo now?
No.
What's Ringo's real name? I don't even know. I hope that's not his real name. Sir Richard Starkey. I never knew that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure most Beatles fans are that. I think the Beatles are a little overrated.
I agree. They have good songs, but not doesn't justify the hype, if you ask me.
No. We're gonna stick with the name games here. This is, can you choose the names these MLB players replace with two initials? So this is harder than John or George. 16 questions, 5 minutes on the clock.
Oh, so it's like TJ or something? You have to tell them what it stands for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one's not going to be easy. All right. AJ Brzezinski, Aaron Jason, Anthony John, or Adam Nicholas Jr.?
That's not even a J. Is that a trick question? Should we choose that one?
I think, yeah, Adam Jr., AJ.
Oh, there you go.
I find myself watching more Foul Territory YouTube videos than I ever thought I would, because they're a bunch of meatheads, but...
Yeah, I don't know. These are all going to be guesses, so...
I don't like David Sampson either, but he makes a perfect length YouTube video. They're like under 10 minutes. You know who he is? The former Marlins executive. His stepdad owned the team, so he was nepo babied into the position. He is sitting on a large baseball glove, is where he podcasts from. It's like,
nice. That sounds fun.
Like, are you Willy Wonka?
Maybe.
But he makes a perfect length videos. But yeah, Adam Nicholas Jr. You want to do that one?
Sure.
All right. It's Anthony John.
Damn, we thought too much about that one. It's like James Jerry or something, isn't it?
Okay, good. Yeah, that's an option. Jamie John or Jeffrey Joshua?
No, it's James Jerry.
That is correct. JJ Putz, Joseph Jason, James Jackson, Jonas Jeremiah.
I don't know. Jonas Jeremiah is like very biblical. That'd be funny. We should go with that one.
Yeah, baseball players love their Bibles. Right. It's Joseph Jason.
Damn.
CJ Crone, Caleb Jeremy, Conrad Jeffrey, or Christopher John?
I don't know. I don't think about that guy ever.
Yeah, I feel like this is a Christopher John. That's correct. I know this one. CC Sabathia, Carson Charles, Cardell Cuthbert, or Carlos Carson?
Definitely Karsten Charles.
I will use this opportunity to plug his HBO Max documentary.
I have his book. I got it from the library. I'm just finishing up something else before I read it.
JT Realmuto, Jose Timoteo, Jacob Tyler, Jason Tritt. Jason Tritt sounds like a country star.
Tritt?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We'll say Jacob Tyler. Yep. I didn't think he was a Jose. BJ Surhoff, William James, Blaisdell Jonathan, Robert John.
I would say Robert John.
I was thinking William James. I'm going to take the lead on this one. Yep, that's correct.
All right.
JD Martinez, Josu Danilo, Julio Daniel, Juan Damario.
No idea.
I'm going to go with the first one. Nope, it's Julio Daniel. AJ Burnett, Aaron George, or Aaron Jorge, I guess. Acherin Jacob or Alan James?
I'd say
What's
Alan
Acherin?
James. What is Acherin? I don't know.
I feel like that's his name.
Okay.
I'm gonna defer to you though. Yep, Alan James. AJ Minter, Atchison Jr., Alex Jordan, Arian James.
Arian. I hope there's not a white dude named Arian.
Oh, Arlen. My bad.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I feel like this is Atchison Jr. I think anytime there's a junior in there, that's a good giveaway.
Try it out.
It's Alex Jordan. JP Crawford, John Paul, Jason Pierce, Jacob Peter.
J.P. Crawford. Is that Carl Crawford's kid?
Oh, I think it is. I just learned about him like a month ago.
Yeah, he's young.
No, this is Is this a Giant shortstop or something?
No, that was No, who are we thinking of? Oh no, this is a different Crawford. This is the Phillies guy
Relief pitcher
who went to
or
Seattle.
infielder?
Yeah, he's like a shortstop. What's the other Crawford's name then?
Yeah, he's a Phillies guy too. I'll just guess Jacob Peter. We got 50 seconds left. 5 questions. That was incorrect. J.D. Drew, Jonah Davis, David Jonathan, Jameson Drew. I doubt his name is Jameson Drew.
Oh, Carl Crawford's cousins with J.P. Crawford. I did not know
Okay.
that. But I think he has a kid that's also.
Yeah, he does. He's a first-round pick. I'll say
Justin
Jonah.
Crawford. That's his
I'm
name.
going to say Jameson Drew. David Jonathan. So his name is backwards.
Yeah,
His name should be DJ Drew.
That's stupid.
Former Oriole, TJ McFarland, Timothy John, Terrence James, Theodore Jedediah.
Do that one. That sounds silly.
Nope. Timothy John. Timothy John surgery.
I want one of them to be weird.
We're going to run out of time. DJ LeMahieu, Dante James, David John, Dizzy Joshua.
Dizzy Joshua. No, I guess the second one.
Yeah, David John. J.A. Happ, James Anthony, Jacob Arthur, John Andrew.
That's a terrible name. Who goes by J.A.? And he basically called himself J, right?
Yeah.
That was weird.
I never liked him because of that.
Yeah. I have no idea.
James Anthony, and I believe this is the last one. BJ Upton. I know this one because he's local to here.
Bossman Jr.
Right. Yeah. They don't even have that listed here, though.
That was his dad's name.
Right.
Wait, so you're supposed to guess his real name?
Yes.
All right. I don't know it. Let's try it.
William. I know. Yeah. So Bossman Jr. is correct. William James, Brian John, or Melvin Emmanuel Jr.
Melvin. I know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that you said it, I got it.
Yeah, because I remember learning that and being like, wait, what? You're allowed to do that? You can just be Bossman Jr.?
If your dad's called Bossman, then I guess you can do whatever you want.
Justin Upton, his brother.
Yeah.
They were both 1 and 2 draft picks. That's crazy.
That is insane.
So, Media Corner, you watching or listening to anything this week?
Going to see St. Vincent tonight in concert. So, been listening to her new album. It's not super new anymore. It's a few months old by now, but I finished a book recently. I read Andre Agassi's biography. I'm not into tennis, and I'd heard it was really good, and it was fine. It wasn't really that exciting, if you ask me, but I read it.
It probably got a lot of hype. He was a big deal when I was in like elementary school, and
yeah,
that makes sense. Didn't he was hiding his hair or something?
He was wearing a hairpiece because he was losing his hair, and he like couldn't deal with it. I guess it was like really stressful to him, and then one day he cut it all off when he was dating Brooke Shields, and she like cut it off for him. Or no, I think the story in the book, it said her like hairdresser came over and they had like a party and shaved his head. It's kind of weird, but
imagine if that wig fell off during a match. That would have been such a scandal, especially back then.
Right. Whereas I happily shave all my hair off because it makes my life way easier.
I'm hanging on okay. I'm definitely thinning, but...
Oh, yeah. My hair was thinning big time. That's why I did it.
Yeah. I thought they would have cured balding by now. When Viagra became a thing in like the late 90s, I was like, oh, it's only a matter of time before they get to hair.
I mean, there's definitely... Isn't there like Turkey, I think, is a place where people go and like get hair transplant or whatever they call it?
Yeah, I guess if you are on a flight returning from Turkey, there's just a bunch of guys on the plane with
like bandages on their heads or something.
Yeah. I saw a picture of it once. It looked hilarious.
Yeah. No, I do not care about losing my hair at all. It does not bother me whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not willing to do any of the stuff that's if you could just take a pill and it starts growing, I'll do that.
Yeah. What about you? You watching anything lately?
I started listening to The Last Manager, the autobiography on Earl Weaver that came out last month that was written by John W. Miller. I don't listen to audiobooks. I just listen to podcasts all day or some music. So this might be my first audiobook. Yeah, Spotify recommended it to me. I am passing that recommendation on to Orioles fans. It's enthralling almost. It's like an HBO miniseries kind of. I knew nothing about Earl Weaver. At least I never really thought of him before. He was just this old guy on some baseball cards, and I knew he was a legendary manager.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's great. He was like the godfather of analytics in some ways. I never thought of him before as a minor league player, too. I get to hear about his minor league career, and he grew up in St. Louis. The Cardinals signed him, and he middled in their minor leagues for a while.
It is interesting how, some of the best coaches and managers like never played at super high level.
Yeah, like none of the big guys. Larry Bird had a good run, but he knew he had a short shelf life. He only did 3 years, but like Wayne Gretzky failed as a coach. Kevin McHale, he coached longer than he should have, I guess.
Patrick Ewing was garbage at Georgetown.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know how he fucked up Georgetown, too. Like, I could understand him failing in the pros, but he should have succeeded in college, which he was kind of ahead of his time a little bit with this new Dion thing that's trending. Like, Michael Vick was just named Norfolk State's head coach. Deshaun Jackson, of all people, is like Delaware State or something.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Eddie George got a job somewhere. He was already coaching somewhere, but he moved somewhere else, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember where he went. He was like Tennessee State or something. But yeah, Patrick Ewing almost ruined it for everybody.
Right.
He was terrible. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to go to work tomorrow to listen to more of this book.
How far into it are you?
Like 40%. The chapters are 10 to 20 minutes, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's pushing me back on my podcast I try and keep up with. That's more of a me thing because I listen to too many of them. I'm listening to it at normal speed too. I want to take it in. I listen to podcasts at 1.3 or 1.5 speed usually, which I wish I didn't do that because, what are you doing really? You're just speedballing podcasts. But yeah, it's that good. I'm listening to it on 1.0 speed.
Nice. I listen to I'm not a big audiobook person either, but I listened to Dave Grohl's book like over the course of probably a month, just while I was like walking or running outside. And I actually found that was nice. Like if I'm running and I have music, it like kind of alters my pace. And a book is just very like calm and consistent, and I could just do what I want, and whatever's in my ears doesn't change that. So
yeah, I'm curious to see if I listen to more audiobooks in the future. I added a couple to the queue. I don't know if I listened to them or not. I added like 2 Mark Maron books, a Tina Fey book. There's one other one in there. I don't know if I'll listen to them or not, but yeah, turn this off and go listen to The Last Manager is what I'm getting at.
I pulled it up in my Dallas library while you were talking about it, and they have it, and it's already got holds, no available. So it's popular here for some reason, but I'll just wait until a few months from now, probably.
Yeah, I think it's on the New York Times bestseller list. I think the author promoted it on some Orioles podcast, maybe. I didn't hear it. I thought I saw it.
Huh.
I want to thank anybody who listens to our podcast. So there's a lot of Orioles podcasts now. Yeah, so I appreciate people listening to this. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think with better teams will come more coverage, right? If they go 72 and 90, I bet a lot of them will stop existing.
I noticed 2 of our highest listened to episodes were the one where Corbin Burns was traded for and Rubenstein was announced as, the incoming owner. We recorded that night. We just had scheduled that timely. And one of the other ones is when Corbin Burns just left to go to the Diamondbacks. I guess people. So Maybe there's a bunch of Corbin Burns fans who were just listening to
Maybe
us.
it's just like his family. He just has like a lot of cousins or something. They're all listening to Diamondbacks podcast now.
Yeah. He does love his family. We know that. That's why he's not here anymore.
Right.
But
What a
yeah, that's
jerk.
it. I'll tack in Sunday's game. Hopefully nothing happens in this game that deserves an immediate reaction. That
Yeah. Well, you'll be able to enjoy Billy's voice in silence in the background without my children.
Yeah.
So
I did a couple last year by myself, maybe 1 or 2 games. All right. So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week.
Yep. Take care. Go O's.